So hello, and today we're going to talk about a topic that I've always wanted to talk about, and it is the common advice to just don't die. And I think this advice is misguided, to be honest. And why is that? Well, as coaches, we always want to encourage our players to be confident. We want to encourage our players to be aggressive, and we always want to encourage our players to look for ways to win. Don't let the game play itself. Play to win. Don't play to not lose. Winning is what matters. And you win a game of Overwatch by winning team fights. And sure, dying is bad. Like you don't want to die. You rather not die than die. But if it's at the expense of not playing the game, then it goes too far. And I hear so many people say just not die and you'll improve. And I think that's a misguided advice. That's misguided. Teach players how to win team fights. Don't teach players to not die. Teach players how to win team fights. If not dying is part of the win condition, then sure, tell them to not die. But if it's not, if there's a risk, then as long as it is a good risk, as long as it's a risk that can potentially that has a good potential of winning the fight, then why fear? Why fear? More likely than not, you're gonna win if you take the initiative properly. You look for that win condition. You set up your players in the right places, and then you engage at the right time. And even if some players die, as long as you can achieve it in the end, you win the fight. That's why it's called a win condition. So so let's talk about how different roles react to the don't die advice and why I think it's bad. So when support players learn hey, playing your life is more important than anything. Well, obviously support staying alive is important. If you die early, then that's probably the team fight loss, but that should not be at the expense of uh, like playing in a position where you're not helpful to your team. So many Anas or Zens or you know flex supports hear the advice to not die, and then they just position all the way back, and they might not die at first, but they can't help their team. And when their team is not well supported, their team dies. And when their team dies, their team can't hold space. And when they can't hold space, guess who's next? And main supports as well. Even though main support is probably the role that where a dogmatic advice of don't die is important. Main supports who know how to bend the rules. Main supports who know how to make plays when it's good to make plays, when those plays lead to wins. They're gonna be better than passive main supports. And let's talk about Li Zhenggan. Well, for example, Li Zhenggan, last year there was that famous Oasis University video where he just appeared to feed all the time. He just fed into ons. Well, oh my god, he's such a bad main support. Why is he an owl? Well, first, looking at the clips again, if you look at the clips again, you can see that he's playing in a Talon Dive comp, which obviously is really brawly and relies on having players who have good survivability, who can survive close range, who can escape if needed, those types of heroes. So the thing is, Li Zhenggan's eventually going to have to get close and personal to Ons, for example, but it's just that his timing was bad. It was not because he was deliberately feeding. It was because his timing is bad. You can watch the video again if you want. You can see that when Li Zhenggan dies, Fearless, Void, and the DPS eventually quickly arrive. If Li Zhenggan went in 2 seconds later, then he probably would have survived and he probably would have been really impactful. But it was just that he went too early that cost him that round. But this year, Li Zhenggan is still the same. Li Zhenggan's still aggressive, but he's not adopting the philosophy of hey, I'm not gonna die and it's all gonna be good. He's now finding ways to play around his team more, play around his team's win conditions. This year, there was a match in APAC where Li Zhenggan got so many boop kills on Lijiang Night Market, and it was so clutch. He coordinated with Fate, and he took the risk, but he knew that risk was gonna win the fight. He knew it, and he knew that because there was a halt, Fate could halt, and he has his team behind him. He knew that he could take that risk, even if he dies if there was a if there's a good chance that like by taking that risk, like they win the fight, then why not take it? Like why like not die? To like why not die when like taking the really passive play will just like give you like 10-20% chance of winning. Go for that high percentage play. Even if you die, well, you did it. You did it like you did a calculated risk and it didn't work. So what? So what? You calculated it. You considered what the risk is. If you had made it, then if you had like succeeded with that play, then you would have won the fight. But if you just don't die, well, what's the chance of winning the fight? They're just gonna like the enemy team's just gonna find their own win condition and they're just gonna win. And like sure, staying alive on Lucio, for example, is really important. But like staying alive doesn't mean like playing passively. Staying alive means like taking good risks, never like risking your life unnecessarily or like not towards a win condition. And if you're able to like recognize win conditions and act upon them, then why be scared at all? Why be scared? Making plays is the game. Winning team fights is the game. If you can win a team fight, even if you die, if you can win a team fight, you win the game. Lose the battle, win the war. So that's for support. And let's go on to DPS because DPS have like probably the biggest tendency to be very aggressive and like feed and whatnot. So many DPS players have this phase where they're like really aggressive. They just go for plays, whatever. They just 1v6. And 1v6ing is bad because like, you know, the DPS player just dies. But like consider why like dying like 1v6 is bad. Because like your team will have to pressure like with 5 players instead of 6. But if they just time those risks, if they consider what ults they have, what they have to work with, and like they went in with their team, they played really aggressive with their main tank, then they're not only as aggressive as if they were 1v6 feeding, but like they're actually playing towards a win condition. They're actually like playing the game, winning the game. They're actually saying, "Hey, we have a tank who's going in, who will absorb all the pressure from me, and I'm gonna go in. If I die, then like because I went in as a team, I'm gonna put so much pressure on the enemy team that like it's gonna take time for them to recover. We can just respawn, whatever. We can just use ults to stabilize, and if we're like good enough, then we can consistently win fights with ultimates where like we're 5v6. Like teams like Shanghai and Shock last year, they're really good at it. And like, you know, Shock like and Shanghai, they're not afraid to like take risks. Like they take smart risks. If they're 5v6, they still win because they're playing towards their win condition. They're not that worried that like, hey, like if I go in, I'm going to die. So many bad things can happen. Well, life is all about risks, and so is Overwatch. And if you're so afraid to like even win the game, if all you're doing is not to lose, then you're not even playing the game at all. You're just giving the enemy like the ability to play the game, to control the game. And the enemy might die. You might pride yourself on like dying less than the enemy. Well, it's gonna fade quickly once the enemy starts winning team fights and you aren't. So don't teach DPS to not die. Teach DPS how to aggress properly, how to take risks properly, how to set up properly. And like they might die. Like they will die. Dying is part of the game. But like what's their impact when they know how to do those things, when they're confident players, when they're aggressive players, when they trust in their mechanics? Their impact is going to be much bigger than if you just tell them to not die. Let's move on to tanks. Tanks, out of any role, should be listening to that advice the least. Dying is part of tank play. You go in, the enemy focuses you, you're gonna probably die if you like don't have like cooldowns, resources, and sure, good tanks know how to like play around them so that like you die less and still take like the same level of risk. But like tanks will die. It's a fact. If you play tank, you know you will die. And good main tanks, even in the Overwatch League, they die like, for example, almost 10 times every 10 minutes. But that's not what matters. What matters is like, are you engaging because like just to like, you know, feed, or are you engaging because like it's part of your win condition? Do you have like nano? Do you have EMP? Do you have primal? Do you have your Zarya have high energy? Do you have positions to like follow up on your engage? If you do, you go in, you die. Guess what? The rest of your team cleans up for you. You have a team. It's not 1v1. This game is a team-based game. 6v6. You win team fights, you win the game. You die, as long as you help your team win a team fight better than the enemy can help theirs, like the enemy main tank can help theirs, I mean, then you're gonna win. Your deaths, like, you might go back to spawn, but you'll be happy with what happened. Your team won it for you. And it's because you took the risk, you recognized the win condition, and, like, your team was able to clean up. Nothing, like, really bad happened. Your team didn't fuck up. And, like, if you're an off-tank player, like, there's a reason why, like, aggressive tank, like, off-tank play is, like, valued. Even though off-tanks have, like, real, have to, like, peel, the thing is, putting pressure on the enemy is the same as peeling for your team. If you put pressure on the enemy, then are they really gonna, like, put all their eyes on your backline? And even if they do, even if they kill your backline, how many of their backline you're gonna kill? Like, how much better are you going to be than the enemy team when, like, the enemy team's, like, putting less pressure than you, who is recognizing that, hey, we can win if we go in aggressively. We have the ultimates. We have, like, the positions. Let's go in. Let's give it a shot. We put pressure on their backline. We prevent their front line from, like, receiving heals. And, like, our backline might die, but, like, we took the better risk. We recognized the win condition before they could. They engaged because they were panicking. We engaged because we wanted to engage. And guess what? Guess what? Your backline dies, you win the team fight. Your backline respawns, phew, my team did their job. And if your backline is complaining that they're dying when, like, your team is clearly going towards clearly, like, executing a win condition, then like, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Again, you lose the battle, but you win the war. So let's take a look at this fight. Let's take a look at this fight from Gladiators. And this was, like, the quarterfinals of the Countdown Cup. So right here we see Glads, they're engaging aggressively. They have positions. They have, like, EMP. They have, like, space even going in from behind, which is, like, off tanks usually don't just, like, go for a really deep flank. But let's see what happens. So Leave uses Blade and tries to, like, punish this, and you might think, oh my god, this risk is so bad. Why are they, like, taking the fight here when, like, they could have lived and, like, focused on staying alive on point? Well, let's look at why Glads engage. This is 2 CP defense. They have ultimates. There was a fair chance they could have, like, gotten clean eliminations, and there might have been, like, some team play issues during this, like, engage itself, but the actual engage was sound. They kill one, they can walk on the point all they want. They can burn ultimates all they want. Like, I mean, like, Shu's dead, but Monk's also dead. But, like, they kill one. They can pop all the ults they want, but we can just retake. They can't sustain on point because they don't have their flex support. And, like, also, it's not like they're engaging with nothing. They have EMP. EMP, like, attacking their rotation is such a common way to win. And it's such an effective way to win because when teams are rotating, they're at their weakest. They have their backline in scuffed position. They have their DPS not set up on good angles. And, like, the fact that this team fight failed, they had to pop, like, a lot of ults to punish it. So if I were, like, and, like, DPay, like, Glads' head coach, is a big fan of this philosophy. But, like, if I was DPay, like, I'm sure DPay would be happy about this fight. Like as a coach, you'd be happy. Even if they lost this fight, as a coach, you should be happy. They're confident, they're aggressive, they're constantly hungry, they're looking for ways to win. And, like, this might have failed a bit. Like, this might have been worse than expected, but they played, like, towards a win condition. They could have won this fight. And the fact that they lost is more of an unlikely outcome. So what? We take those. We take an unlikely outcome. Unlucky, go next. But, like, the more you, like, put pressure on the enemy, the more you, like, play towards your own win conditions, the more you defend against theirs. Because right here, Hunters punish a few. What do they do now? They still have to scout around. They still have to establish positions. They still have to, like, hold the point. And they have to do it while their flex support is dead. So like we're gonna see how hunters like cope with us. And the answer is they don't. Like they got so many kills, but like the fact that like they they got engaged upon when they were in such bad positions meant that like they had to stabilize while they were in a bad position. And like the couple players who were alive, like the couple players like in the back line, they could punish that. Like Gladiators like initial win condition failed, but like the fact that they were aggressive, they were confident, they put so much pressure on Hunters that like Hunters couldn't even dream of getting a clean team fight. And like Glads would just respawn and clean up. So they might have lost the battle here, but they won the war. And like again, it's not only because like even if they lost here, even if they like lost the entire point, I don't care. I would still be happy. I would still be really happy that like my players know how to look for win conditions and like act upon them. And like as coaches, you're not just going to like ruin the confidence of your players because they made a bad play once. Like this isn't even a bad play. I mean like they bad execution. This is more bad execution. But like I'm not gonna be sad that my players made a bad play. I'm gonna be proud.